General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Bulls vs. Bears Global Alpha Edition. I'm your host, Finn Judell, and I'm with your co-host, Richard Nader. How are you going, Richard?
Well, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's been a while. We're looking at a couple things this week. Should be a fairly short episode because guess what? We are not talking about Trump. I've made the executive decision not to talk about Trump today because it's mentioned about 3 times a day on the morning report. You probably hear it, 50% of the time on the news. He's taking over Greenland. He's taking over South America. He's tariff this, tariff that. I'm done with it. So we're not talking about Trump.
Social media, there's no escape these days.
There's just no escape.
There's always something to be spoken about. So, yeah, ingredients there.
Yeah, aside from that, this is a safe, no Trump zone for the time being. Other than that, earnings highlights we'll be looking at as Nader will be guiding us through that, and we'll be talking about an interesting announcement from the New York Stock Exchange. So let's get into earnings, Nader. What are you thinking this week?
So coming up this week, there is one that's missing there that we are looking at tonight, which is Telix Pharmaceuticals. It's a bit on the smaller side of market cap, so that's actually just slipped off the list there, but definitely one of our higher conviction recommendations here at MPC. Reporting tonight, so we're hoping that we're going to have a good result there. They had a positive announcement this morning that they're looking to expand into China, so let's just hope all the stars align.
Yep.
On that one. Netflix, I'm not putting it out as a recommendation, but we'll be looking very keenly to see the results there. Johnson & Johnson in the medical space, we have medical trades on, but it's more, ETF based recommendations. So
yep.
Look, if that space starts to do well, it's going to result quite well for clients. And, you've got Intel coming up a bit later in the week, which goes back into the AI play, I believe.
Yep. No, that's right. And what are you thinking about Netflix this time around? Do you have any kind of thesis or any kind of ambitions around that?
Not really here nor there, really.
Yep. Okay.
I haven't really seen anything to scream that it would be a buy in the last sort of 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
There's been lots of talk about different programs in the past where, everyone was watching Tiger King, Squid Games, things like that. You haven't really seen any hype around sort of the Netflix brand for a while now in terms of content. Yeah,
it's a very fragmented industry now. And they've probably on purpose pivoted away from sharing subscriber numbers, apparently.
Yeah.
And they're kind of tying that towards less of a subscriber-based business model, and they're kind of got a dual business model now where they're looking at advertisements and things like that. But look, it's
gaming.
Not. Yeah, that's right. That's another kind of ambitious goal for them, is to get into gaming. But look, as an industry, if you're thinking about the industry, it's become very fragmented. A lot of that revenue has been taken away from Netflix and gone into, all these other platforms like Stan and Binge or whatever's, popular in your country or your area. So yeah, it seems like Netflix has kind of come out of the limelight. So we'll see how they perform this year. It is. I'm kind of interested to see how that goes, because it will be an idea of what's to come for the industry, I think.
Absolutely. It's interesting as well. There's a lot of free alternatives now.
Yeah.
Where, you get advertising and things like that. So I don't, it's becoming less and less of a need to have Netflix. I've downloaded one the other day, Tubi, Tubi. Free, has, lots of movies and content on there. So using Netflix less and less. And then, of course, in Australia, you got SBS On Demand, Channel 9 and things like that, or with their own streaming services. So
yeah, I mean, look, I won't lie. I don't have any subscription services at the moment, but I'm not saying I don't watch TV, or I don't. I mean, I'm not going to promote it, but
it's definitely a trend.
It rhymes with irit or iracy.
Yeah.
Anyway, move on to the next section. So yeah, look, interesting development announced today. There's been some hints at this announcement for the past couple of weeks, but it looks like it's really coming into fruition. The New York Stock Exchange announces a tokenized stock exchange under their entity ICE. So this entity was originally founded in 2000. It was used as, for various different things. But now they're looking to pivot this entity into opening up a brand new kind of tokenized stock exchange or a tokenized securities exchange. And so this will be using a blockchain ledger. It will be using a private ledger as opposed to a public ledger, which, if you think about public ledgers, you think about things like Ethereum, things like Bitcoin. They will actually be creating their own private ledger for this. And essentially what this will do is it enables 24/7 trading, right? And you think about the US, obviously it is the US market, but to much of the world, it is the kind of primary market, right? So they're very much a global market, so it will increase access for the rest of the world. Personally, I think it's probably a good choice from them. Obviously, a lot of demand from our side of the world in US stocks and the rest of the world, so it will increase accessibility. And on top of that, it'll enable instant on-chain settlement. So instant settlement. So currently, settlement on the New York Stock Exchange is T+2, which means it actually takes 2 days for a trade to settle legally, and for those funds to be legally cleared. Which in my world, coming as a zillennial or a Gen Z/millennial, that's way too long. I want it to be like this. I don't want it to take 2 days. So I think that's a good development. It'll be interesting to see how that rolls out. It's still in kind of regulatory approval phase, and they have had approval from the DTCC already, but there's obviously other approvals to be granted from the SEC as well. But there is a strong ambition to launch later this year. So we'll see how that goes. Cool. Well, look, I think that's all for today. As always, download Mosaic. There will be a link in the description. This is where you can access all of your updates for MPC markets. There is actually a 30-day free trial for our investment recommendations. But if you don't want the recs, you can always just access our content from the app and you'll be the first one to see it. So make sure you download Mosaic and have a free trial.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.